I'm going to pivot from what I had. I had forbidden fruit as the topic and the lesson for this evening, but I really want to talk a little bit more and dialogue a little bit more off of how we started off the year. And it was what are you trusting God for in 2022? What are you asking God for in 2022? What are your expectations? What are your goals? What are your dreams? What are your hopes for 2022? And what brought me back for us to talk about this more is too early in the year to give up on it and to stop talking about it. And the other part of it is my conversations in the marketplace with many Christians when it comes to their New Year's goals. I won't say resolutions, their goals. And it's mainly because many of them treat God in this whole thing like the Jack in the Box Jesus, like the genie in the bottle Jesus, that I'm going to rub on Jesus and he's just going to make this stuff happen for me. And I truly believe our God is sovereign, that he can do anything that he chooses to do. There's nothing possible for him. And I take that back because we know there are some things that God can't do because God can't lie. God can't go back on his word. God's not going to start loving it. So there's some things that God cannot do.
Yeah.
He ain't going to go against his word.
Right. He won't.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother. You want to ask something to that? Okay. So, but what it is that they just put everything on God. Everything on God. Like they have no responsibility on their own to help make these things happen and come to fruition in their life. This clip I want to show, I think there's going to be some nuggets that we can jot down on this and we can have our discussion about. It's going to be about 15 minutes and I want to hurry up and move out of the way. This is one of Rocky's favorite actors, one of mine as well, who passed away this year on the 6th of January, 2022. And I want to glean some stuff from what he has to say here. So let's dive into it real quick. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
All right.
A bird.
And fellas, do me a favor, put yourself on mute for me.
I was not looking to be an actor. I was not looking for opportunities. I had absolutely no interest at all in being an actor. I was a dishwasher. I was, at that point, content to be a dishwasher because I felt and understood and embraced the fact that I did not have the wherewithal to do much else. That I wanted to do more. Not only did I want to do more, I was preparing myself to do more. One of the preparations I decided was essential to my survival was I had to learn to read. I really had to learn to read. I could read third grade level, fourth grade level. As I told you, I left school at the age of 12 and a half. I then decided that I have to learn to read well. And I went about that process. And just that I knew was my goal. The reason was I realized that in New York, there were many streets. Some were numbered, but not all. Some were named. And 3 syllables, I had great problems with pronouncing 3 syllables. And every word that had 3, 4 syllables in it, it staggered me. I mean, it just defeated me. So I decided that I had to learn to read better because all of the information necessary for my survival would come to me in words. And if I don't understand the words, I wouldn't know the message. And if I don't know the message, no one would have time for me. So that's what I did. I tried to learn to read. But anyway, the acting came totally as an accident. I was looking for a dishwashing job, and I could find a dishwashing job in a paper. It's an African American paper called the Amsterdam News. And I would go to the want ad pages there, and it would list porters wanted, dishwashers wanted, maids wanted, whatever. And on this particular day, when I needed a job, and I looked into this paper, there was nothing there concerning dishwashing. So what I did was, I was about to fold it up and put it into the street bin, you know, the trash bin on the streets. And something caught my eye. And what caught my eye was a phrase. It said, actors wanted. Well, on the want ad page, it said dishwashers wanted, and this wanted, and porters wanted. And I figured, well, I can even manage some of those jobs. But what is this actor's job? That doesn't sound like it's too bad. So, and they're inviting me because they say actors wanted. So I decided, and there was an address there in the article. So I went, and I was just 10 blocks away. So I walked over to this place, and I went in, and no, I knocked on the door, and a guy came through the door, opened it. It was the basement of a library. I didn't know that at the point. And a guy opened the door. He's a massive, massive guy. I mean, huge guy, big, and you know. And he said, yes. I said, I came to see about Actors Wanted. He said, you're an actor? I said, yeah. He said, come on in. I went in, and he said, where have you acted before? I said, Florida. And he said, yeah? He said, you acted in Florida? I said, yeah. Anyway, he said, okay, here is this script. Turn to page 28. Read this scene. It's a page and a half. Go over it a couple of times, and then let me know when you're ready, and we'll read it together. I'll read the other part, and you'll read John. I said, okay. And I looked over it. I could hardly make out what the scene was. Anyway, he says, you ready? I said, yeah. And I stepped up on a little stage, but so big, it was maybe 12 feet, 15 feet wide, and 9 feet deep or something, you know. And he said, you ready? I said, yes. He says, okay, remember you're on page 28. I said, yeah. He said, okay, you he said, you start. I said, okay. I started the line, my line. And now I'm reading like I read when I was in school. I am very slow, and I am very particular in trying to pronounce these 3-syllable words and 4-syllable words. As a result, I'm saying, when are you going to be at, well, he came up on the stage and he snatched that book out of my hand, and he said, he spun me around. He grabbed me here and here, and he's marching me to the door. And he's saying, get out of here and stop wasting people's time. He said, you can't read, you can hardly talk. I had this accent, you know. And he says, why don't you just go out? And he's marching me to the door. He's got my collar back here and my belt back here, and and he's really pissed. He's marching me to the door, and he said, just get out of here and stop wasting people's time. He opened the door, pushed me out, slammed the door. He said, why don't you go out and get yourself a job as a dishwasher? He said. Now I'm walking down the street to go get a bus, go down Manhattan toward the end, actually, where there were loads of employment agencies. And I suspected I would be able to get a job because I've gotten them there before. Halfway in the block between Lenox Avenue and 7th Avenue. And 7th Avenue is where I'll catch a a bus or get the subway. I stopped dead in the middle of the street between the two. And I said to myself, how did he know that I was a dishwasher? He suspected. I said, I didn't tell him. I didn't say anything about dishwashing. That was one thing I wouldn't have told him. And I realized then and there that what he said was his perception of my worth. He perceived me to be of no value beyond something that I could do with my hands. And while he was correct in his anger to characterize me that way, I was offended. I was offended deeply. And I said to myself, I have to rectify that. I have to show him that he was wrong about me. I decided then and there that this is a wild decision I made, of course, but I did decide then, at that moment, on that street, that I am going to be an actor just to show him that he was wrong about me. And then I would give up the acting because I'm not, what do I want to be an actor for? I committed myself to that. That goes to show you that I was a rather peculiar kid. Luckily, I wasn't around psychiatrists and all that kind of stuff, because they probably would have marked me as a guy who was a little off his rocker. He told me, among the things he said to me, he said, you can't talk, you can't speak, you can't read. No one ever said that to me before. And I always dreaded that someone would say that to me because I really couldn't read well. And I really didn't speak terrifically. Certainly, my accent was Caribbean. So his complaints were dead on. But I had to now not push that aside. I had to then look at it and say, wait a minute, that's the me that he sees. Therefore, I have to assume the responsibility for either remaining that way or changing it. And to change it for what purpose? I have to change it because I felt in myself that if I don't change it, I would be less the person that I perceive myself to be. I continued working as a dishwasher, and I learned that there were no other theatrical groups in Harlem at that time of the same caliber as was the American Negro Theater. And I decided that I wanted to, I learned that they had a school system where they taught acting and stuff. So I wanted to get in there. I also learned that there were some very prestigious Black actors and actresses who were affiliated with it. So I set my sights there. And I learned that they had auditions every 3-6 months or so. So I decided that I would go there and take an audition. And I went in and asked if I could come in for an audition. I didn't see this huge, massive guy there, fearful that he would remember me and discount me. But I went there and they told me, yeah, you can come and have an audition at such and such a time. Well, I did, but I didn't know where I would get a scene from. I didn't know that there were places you can go and buy little books of plays, and you can take a scene and study that and then show it, use it as an audition. So what I did was I bought a True Confessions magazine. True Confessions magazines were for ladies. But listen, all I needed was to, so I selected the 2 paragraphs out of such a story. I memorized it best I could, and I was going to use it as a thing. The words that I didn't quite understand, I would learn about them. I would ask certain people that I got to know. So I understood what the words were. Mind you, my accent is still pretty poor. Long story short, I went in and I auditioned for them, and they said, thank you. They said, we'll let you know. And they did indeed let me know. And the note came that I wasn't selected. I was crestfallen. So I couldn't give it up. So I went back to them. I walked in and there was a lady at the kind of like the desk. And I said, I took an audition the other day and I wasn't accepted. I said, however, I'm here today to ask if this is a possibility. And she said, what? I said, I noticed that you don't have a janitor. And I said, I will do the janitor work for you because it's not a big deal. You know, you have a fairly small place here and stuff. I will do the janitor work for you in exchange for letting me study here. And she looked at me in a peculiar way. She said, you would do that? I said, yes, I would do that. And she said, well, I'll talk to them about it. I said, I'll come back in a couple of days. I went back in a couple of 3 days, and I could tell that she didn't really tell them. I said, she said, oh, yeah. She said, well, she said, excuse me a minute. She goes into the back with the office, I suppose. And then she stays there a while, and she comes out with a guy, and he says, what is this you do? He didn't know me from the other thing. This is, he's seeing me for the first time. And I said, yes. He said, you would do that? I said, yes, I would do that. He said, why would you do that? I said, because I want to learn. I want to learn. And he said, he says, where are you from? And I told him, any experience? No. Well, they let me in. They let me in and I started studying. Then they kicked me out because I didn't show much possibilities. And then I was rescued by my fellow students in the classes that I was in because they got to like me. They thought I was a little crazy guy, but they got to like me. And when the authorities said to me that you won't be coming back because you didn't show any possibilities, my friends on their own accord, not mine, I had nothing to do with it, but they kind of liked me. And a committee of them, like 3 of them, went to see the head person. And they said that we understand that Sidney is not going to be coming back, and so-and-so, and we just wondered, we know that you're going to be doing a student production. And we figure that since he worked so hard to try to be acceptable, we wondered if maybe you could give him a walk-on. Maybe you can just walk across the stage once. And the person said, well, it was a she, said to the friends in my class, because she recognized that they were doing it out of they had developed some kind of feeling for me. And she said, I'll think about it. And when they went back to her, she said, well, I tell you what, I'll make him an understudy for someone. And she said to me, I'll let you understudy the guy who's going to play the part. Now, she had no intentions of me ever playing that part.
Mm.
So I took it. I didn't know she had no intentions. I just learned that later. The guy that she had chosen to do the part was Harry Belafonte,
Okay.
a very handsome, well-known, good actor. Anyway, long story short, I studied that part, and I was on top of it as best I could have been. The evening of the performance, Harry Belafonte unfortunately could not come because it was his father was the janitor at a building, and he had to help his dad take the ashes from the furnace that heated the place. There were 8, 10, 12 big baskets of ashes had to be taken up for the dump trucks to take away. And he had to do it on that particular evening. So she was stuck with me, and she set me on. I went on, I played the part. I knew all the words. I had my accent, and I did the best I could. There was a guy in the audience who had directed that play before and had been invited by the lady who directed it, us at the theater. And she had asked him to come and take a look at it to see what she had done with it. And the guy came. But he came at a night when Harry Belafonte, the star, wasn't going to be there. So she put me on.
So I see some nuggets there. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just want to open up, and I want to open it up to everybody. Tell me what you got out of it. Because again, we're asking God for things. In my round table, in the marketplace, I'm talking to Christians, and they're asking God for things, and they're believing God for things. And I mean, hey, man, I'm blessing. I'm asking God to bless me with a house, and and that's great. God bless me with a house, but yet they got a credit score of 300. They got bad credit. I'm trusting God, for this and for that, but yet they are not doing the preparation. And we talked about this stuff before, the preparation or going through the process to help achieve the things that they say they want from God. They want to put everything on God, but they're not going through the preparation process on their own. Say I want to lose weight, whatever the case may be, but you refuse to stop, eating McDonald's, and you want, you want to be fit, but you refuse to work out or go to the gym, but you trust in God for these things. So I see nuggets in that, and I want to open it up right now. Talk to me. What's some nuggets that you've seen in this story? Because we know the outcome when it comes to Sidney Poitier.
Right.
He's letting us behind the scenes of what went on in his life for him to obtain the success that he ultimately obtained. So please, I see Jeff, you have your hand up. I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, I like the fact that he recognized his limitations, but yet still he had some self-determination, and he was willing to sacrifice and work for free. So when the guy, tossed him out, by his britches, it sparked something in him, a deeper determination. So those are just a couple of things that I got out of it.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, someone else was about to say something. Oh, okay. Well, one of the things that really struck me is that Sidney Poitier, to see that regarding, Sidney Poitier is one of the finest actors of the 20th going into the 21st century. God bless him. I had never, I never knew that part about his life. I knew that he came over here as a young boy, as an immigrant. But the fact of the matter is that just as Brother Jeff said, he understood his limitations, but he didn't let that hold him back. And he needed motivation. He knew that there was something inside of him that wanted to be more than a dishwasher, but he knew that that was something he could do for survival's sake. But then, the idea of acting and the way that everything started falling into place, I'm saying he had to work to make things happen. He had to put up his own effort. He had to not quit, have a determination that, someone had written him off, and it was like, how dare you write me off? You perceived based on seeing me, hearing, you don't really know me. You don't know what's inside of me. You don't know what's inside of my heart, my spirit, my drive. You just made a quick determination that you're useless, you're a waste of time, and get out of here, that kind of thing. And he was motivated, and it was heavy because he touched the hearts of people even around him, that they saw that motivation and the courage and the don't quit. And I think that can be transferred over, to where ministry is concerned. Brother Dre and rest of you brothers, is that, a lot of times, we ask God for things, and just like you say, not willing to pay the price, make the sacrifice. What do I have to give up in order to attain, what I mean? Those things. And there is a preparation that God called for. And a lot of times we as men of God have got to be willing to just Lord, if I can just get my foot in the door, so to speak, because he has things in store for you. But you're not going to start, with your, a job with your feet propped up on the desk and so forth, and starting out with a CEO, title and salary. That a lot of times you might start off sweeping floors, like he was saying, like he volunteered to do. Be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to take one step at a time, here and there. And the heavy part about it is that in the long run, yes, it did pay off. It wasn't an overnight success. Right. And I think that, anyway.
No, good stuff. Now, okay, we're gonna go with Doc Pierre, or we see Cedric, and then we'll go with Book. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I kind of got out of it. You never know how your doors of opportunity are going to open up for you. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to share a little personal experience. I gave a opportunity to Sidney Poitier 3 or 4 years ago when I had an opportunity, but I stepped back and let him have that opportunity that he could come up. The story goes like this here. I was at a conference in Dallas, and I was returned to my room, and I had pushed for this opportunity. Actually, what I did, I pushed for the elevator. And when the doors came open for me to come in, 2 security guys showed up out of nowhere. One grabbed one door, the other one grabbed the other door, and they kind of signaled me to stand back. And when I stood back, all of a sudden, here comes Sidney Poitier from around the corner. Mm-hmm. He steps into the elevator, which had opened up for my opportunity, but I stood back, gave him the opportunity, and then the doors closed, and he went on up.
I hear you, brother.
Amen. So you gave him the opportunity to rise to the top, huh?
Yeah.
I hear you.
That was my opportunity.
Good man, Dr. Pierre. Good man. Good man.
That's a good one. That's a good one. What you got for us, Cedric? You got to take yourself on mute. There you go.
All right, y'all. I was at a real estate conference this week, rather, and one thing the sister stressed is that fear and favor can't exist in the same room. Fear and favor can't exist in the same room. And another thing what I like about this story is when we talk about walking by faith, you literally got to walk by faith, meaning you take that literally. Put one foot out there and then the next foot. Put one foot out there and the next foot. So, you know, when you talk about walking by faith, that ain't sitting on the couch playing video games. Is, you know, and for me, I had to really hone that in to make sure I'm getting off my butt and walking by faith, meaning not, you know, sitting on the couch, actually putting one foot in front of the other. And that's what walking by faith is really about. So when we talk about walk by faith, meaning that we're going to have to do some work. And walking by faith also means, you know, it don't talk about walk by faith with some comfortable shoes. You know, when you say walk by faith, you might not have no shoes on, but you still got to walk. And I think that's what I got out of it. And it just really honed down, you know, that's what walking by faith is about to me. All right, y'all, I'm back on mute.
All right, that was good.
Because that's what that brother did.
Amen. Amen. We're going to go with Book and Rudy. And yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Go ahead, Book.
All right, gentlemen. So first things first, Dr. Pierre, you are a saint. What a sacrifice. Way to step up.
Yeah, brother.
Couple of notes I took down, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say, if you have not read the book, The Measure of a Man by Sidney Poitier, do yourself a favor and read it. And if you love yourself, do yourself a favor and listen to him read it in his audio book, because there is nothing like listening to that man speak. It is just amazing. And it gives you all of that story that we just heard and more of the bits and nuggets around that.
Okay, what was the title of it again?
The Measure of a Man. The Measure of a Man. And so, great book. The things that I wrote down, Dre, are how he kept moving himself forward. He welcomed the challenge. He didn't shy away from the challenge. I don't know if he was looking for that challenge, but when it came to him, he met the challenge. And being rebuffed of what he wanted didn't cause him to shy away either. It actually caused him to dig in deeper. You know, like he said, you told me I can't, so I'm going to do it. Even if I just do it for 5 minutes, I'm going to go do it. Which then turned into something else for him, much greater. And then his commitment to what he was doing. All the sacrifices, willing to take zero to get a gain. So just the testament about what, you know, the clear, I mean, from my perspective, for sure, this is a plan that was put in place by his creator. And he was the man for that job. I'm not sure how else you end up standing in for Harry Belafonte. Right. I don't know how else that happens. I don't know how those pieces come together if it's not, but he had to be there. Right. He had to walk that walk, as you said, without shoes. And if you read his book, you'll find out that when he was growing up on Cat Island, most, if not all of that existence was done without shoes. A great book. So staying the course, staying on the plan. And one of the quotes that I took from him, from his book, I want to share with you. It is, you do not have to become something you're not in order to be better than you were. You do not have to become something that you're not in order to become better than you were.
Right. And that comes from there's a lot of things and roles that he turned down because it didn't line up with his upbringing, his character, who he was as a man. There's certain things like I didn't want to get into it because Book is right. There's some things that he changed scripts. Like, I'm gonna put it like this: to have a white man slap me in my face in a movie and me not slapping back, that ain't even real.
That's not gonna happen.
He made, hey, look, if you want me to do this movie,
Right,
I'm
right.
gonna have to slap him back.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Anyway, go ahead. That's what you want to do. Go ahead, Rudy. Good stuff.
Oh, Book, you finished?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, yeah, so some things I wrote down was selling yourself short
Mm.
without doing the work first to prepare for where you want to go.
Mm. Amen.
You know, and then understanding what you need to do to survive. I heard him talk about that. He recognized that he had to do something different in order to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And then being open to new things, doing whatever you need to do to learn the new thing. And I don't know why he mentioned, but he said his first audition was in the basement, and he noticed it was a library full of information.
Mm-hmm.
And before he was on his way to get that dishwasher job or whatever, it dawned on him, hey, wait a minute, hold on, stop here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make myself be who I want to be. And then the other part one of the other one I written down was when you fail and others speak words over you to be a failure because of the action you just displayed does not mean you have to stay that way or be that way in life.
That's right.
Good.
Good.
So good. So good.
Mhm.
I'm gonna jump my couple out real quick, and then again, I want anybody else to dive in after me.
I want to dive in.
Okay, well, go ahead, Rock, because that's your dude. I know you love him, so go ahead.
Well, this is a book that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. So I got out of it perseverance. So and for him to had been looking in that paper and was about to throw that paper away and something caught his eye. I mean, I think that was just, it was just meant to be, God's blessing.
Mm-hmm.
It was God's blessing. And sometimes, well, from what I feel, sometimes God's guidance is a lot more seen in certain people.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, it was just destiny for him to have caught at that out of the side of his eye.
Mm-hmm.
And he persevered, and that's it.
I'm going to say one of the things that caught my eye at first. I was talking with Antoinette. We kind of was looking at it together for a minute, and it just shoots down the theory to me that we say a lot, especially in the Black community. And I know we've all heard it. Is that term "fake it till you make it"?
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out too well for him in his first audition.
Yeah.
And faking it till you make it type of stuff. He wasn't prepared. He didn't have the skills. He didn't have the knack. And that fake it till you make it in that instance for him did not work out very well for him. But he learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
And he learned from it because somebody spoke truth to him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like truth many times.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you can't read, especially in this politically correct, sensitive society we live in right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can't read. You wasting my time. Go wash dishes, because from what I see right now, yeah, that is where you are at in your life right now. This acting thing ain't for you. And I love the fact that he was humble enough to reflect on that. And even though he didn't like what the man told him, he I really can't argue with it.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, he internalized it. Basically, now what am I going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do with that? You want to call it an insult? You want to call it truth or whatever? But the bottom line is, what am I going to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that, and I'm going to move out of the way. The statement, when he went back in there, and it was already brought up by Book and them, that I clean your office. The statement is just, to me, that rings in my ear, is I just want to learn.
Right. Right.
I just want to learn. That just speaks volumes to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna move out of the way. Who else?
Man, oh man. In light of what you said in the film, because like what rolled around the back of my mind too was Booker T. Washington, and I think all of us have heard that story about how he walked all the way to Hampton Institute, and he in turn didn't have the money, and so to make a long story short, he volunteered to sweep the floor and keep the classroom clean if he could get an education, and he swept it three times. His account was that he swept it up, he swept it again, then he swept it a third time to make sure. And when they came in and looked, they admitted that, hey, that'll do. In other words, you're that hungry for an education. And it was a matter of not just doing it once, but being willing to do anything in order to get an education, man. And so, I feel that. I feel that.
Yes,
and you are right that at times truth of where a person is at, it's hard to take. But the man was being brutally honest, and it helped to motivate anyway.
And that's the key. He was humble enough to accept it. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I know we've shared a lot of stories about those like Booker T and Sidney Poitier, but I was hoping to hear from our own stories of when we were just totally denied, door closed in our face, was thrown out, or said we couldn't make it. But in your own journey, did you reflect back to some of those times when you persevered and to prove that they were wrong?
Yeah. I mean, great segue, Doc. Anybody want to share?
Yes. I when I looked at that, I saw a documentary on Sidney a few years ago, and saw where he came from, how he persevered through lack of knowledge and understanding and reading and all, and that hit me right in the midst of my heart, because I had a struggle. I had a bad struggle when I was a kid. My parents had to work all the time. It was 11 kids, and I didn't get a chance to I didn't have the opportunity to really be able to be taught to read anything like that. But as he did, I kept on trying. I kept on trying through that hardcore struggle to know there was something in me, just like he was saying, like the scriptures say, greater is he is in you and in me as he is in the world. There was something in me that continued to have me to continue to move forward, even though I couldn't hardly read for the longest of time. And as I was growing in school with that same type of problem, I was always put in a leadership position. Football, the captain of the team. When I was in the military, I was a leader. Everywhere I went in, every situation I was in, I ended up being a leader, but yet I downed it myself. So I kept on saying, I can't do it. I kept telling myself, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that and other. And I'm not gonna stay long. And one of the things that I wasn't good at anything really. I actually flunked in the second grade because I could not deal with school. And then I ended up going back to school, and I stayed. I went to college for a year. I came home to my father, no sense spending more money on me. I can't do it. I kept on doing it. Went through the military, kept on doing it. But God had his hands on me through all this struggle, through all this time that I was struggling like that. And the job that I said I could not do in the beginning. I went to all kind of school. At least I kept trying all these different schools with the trade schools, all the different types of schools. But the main job that I said I couldn't do and I wasn't going to do it because I wasn't smart enough, ended up doing it. And that was being a mechanic working on Porsches, Audis, and Mercedes. I didn't think I was smart enough. I couldn't do it. I couldn't figure it out. But I end up with that as being my profession that I retired in. But I kept on trying and kept on trying and kept not listening to what people say. I can't do this. I kept saying it for myself. I couldn't do it. But God has stepped in and took over and led and guided my heart and mind through all these different types of situations until I was able to make it. I never did give up. Never did give up. And looking at Sidney Portier, everything he started with through was right there on time with me because I had a hard time.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that. That's rich. Very, very rich. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. I just thought it was awesome how persistent Sidney was through his journey.
Yeah.
I mean, he never gave up. And I also thought it was kind of funny how his main reason for going back into acting was because he just wanted to piss that guy off. I thought that was pretty comical, but yeah, he just showed like a great will. You know, once he got locked into what he wanted to do, he was willing to put in all the work that it took to get him to where he needed to be. And, you know, he would fall, but he'd get back up. And he'd fall, he'd get back up and keep trying. And I think that those characteristics and those actions is when God gives people like that a hand up.
Yeah.
You know, the big difference between a hand out and a hand up. I think that's where the hand up comes, and he got his chance to shine. And yeah, like Eric was saying, no other reason for him to be for Harry Belafonte to not show up that night and then give Sidney his shining role and do that for him. So yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome. Yeah, a lot of heart.
Very good.
Yeah.
Hard work pays off.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know for me, growing up, and a lot of you guys know me, there were plenty of times when I was written off and
Can't
didn't
see
know
you.
what I
We
was
know
gonna
you,
do.
but we like to see you.
Oh man, I had to be in my little quiet space.
No, I'm only messing with you, Tone. I'm only messing with
But
you.
yeah, you know, I went through a tough time where I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, growing up, I was fortunate. A lot of you guys know that I grew up across the street from Kevin Dean. So from the time I was 7 years old, we were best friends. So as best friends back then, what do you want to be, Kev? Kev said, man, I want to be a baseball player. I said, well, that's great. I don't want to do that. That takes too long. So I want to be a football player. So my goal was to be a football player, but growing up, I had problems. So one of the main things you got to do in order to play football in school is you got to go to school and you got to get grades. I struggled. Mr. Mack was one of my teachers. He helped me out. I struggled big time in school. Yeah. I was dyslexic, but we didn't know it back then. So it was a lot of struggle, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was really going left. And God, and I mean God, and you guys know this on this call. God said, "No, son, I got another plan." And the way that happened, you know, I've told my story on there. You know how I went to a bar. I'm in a bar at 18 years old, and I meet a guy that really helped change my future and put me at where I'm at today. So I understand what it's like to go through that and to be knocked down, even during the, you know, when I was on that journey. It was many times, many people say, "Oh, you know, you're not going to make it, but Kev's going to make it." Okay. It was never it was never nothing against him, but it was all motivation for me. So for me, when I would go there, it inspired me to go to practice before everybody and then be the last one there to leave. Because I had an opportunity that God provided me with, and I wanted to make the best of it. So I understood when he said he was willing to stay there, and, you know, in other words, work for free, in other words, to get better. I truly know what that means, you know, when you really want something, that you will trade anything for it. So I'm just thankful to share a little bit with you guys. Thanks.
Amen.
And thank God for you,
Good
Tony.
stuff. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just share real quick.
Yes, sir.
For me, it was in high school when Oakland Public Schools, the 5 high schools of Oakland Public Schools, was having a public speaking contest, and was going to be representatives from each school. And in my class, someone suggested, let Pierre represent, and the whole class bust out laughing when they said that. And so upon that, just to prove my class wrong, I said, okay, you know, I will do it. And I practiced and practiced, and I wrote that speech and practiced every night when I went home. And I ended up taking first place in the Oakland Public School public speaking contest. And so here I am still today, public speaking, and got a radio program. So it was just that, trying to prove them that they were wrong. It kind of gave me the direction of my life.
Amen. Thank you. Now we got Uncle Pete, and then Sid, are you your hand back up again? So we're gonna go with Uncle Pete, and Sid, you can come behind Uncle Pete.
Hey, good evening, brothers. How y'all doing tonight?
Good evening. Good.
So I think we started out by you asked the question, you know, what did Sidney's story, you know, mean to you, or what do we get out of it? I don't know, you know, for me, the man obviously had to humble himself. And he took time to prepare himself. Seems like he let the drive inside of him drive. He had belief that he can do it. And seems like he allowed God to do the work within inside of him. And people that I've came across in my journey that was very, very successful, I think let that drive inside of them. And if they're God-fearing, they allowed God to put them in a place where God can use them as an instrument of his will. And Sidney didn't know, but God had a plan for him. Sidney became a world beacon for yes, we can. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can overcome. And I can tell you from experience that I had an opportunity to meet Sidney and chat with Sidney. And I can tell you right now, the man is extremely humble. He's kind, he's gentle. He carries this aura about him. He's grateful, and he's very, very giving of himself. And by the time we got through chatting and walked away, you know, he said, if there's anything that I can ever do for you, please give me a call. I am indebted into you. So don't hesitate, you know, to reach out. I never did. I never had a need to, but just the mere fact, the person of his, you know, satire, he didn't have to say those things, but he was very, very generous. And so what we saw tonight on that clip, it's my experience and my testimony that he's every bit of that and more. And I'm glad that the good Lord, you know, put him in our sights, because I think we all kind of got something out of Sidney over the years that we watch all of the controversial movies, particularly during those years that, you know, he was on there slapping white folks around. So I'm really grateful for that experience, and I'm grateful for you showing the clip tonight, because it just reminds me and refreshed me and re-energized me that the journey is never going to be over. We just have to just keep going and let go and let God. Thanks for the time to have my comments.
That's good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? So we got time for a couple more before we close out. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
Anybody? Okay, I don't want us to miss the other part. And you know, we talk about this in this forum a lot on this session. I don't want you to miss the relationship part. I don't want you to miss that when he was kicked out of school, he had made such an impression and built such relationships with his fellow young actors that they went to bat for him.
They sure did.
Let's not miss that part. How relationships matter, how we treat people matter, how we sow into people's lives matter, because you never know on the screen as we look at these faces, you never know who we may need to go to bat for us one day.
That's true.
So I just don't want to, I don't want to just, you know, us to miss that portion of the relationship portion that he had with his classmates as well. So I want to point that part out. Anybody else?
It makes me think about in the news today where the whole team at this bagel store, the whole staff quit because they fired the manager. And I don't know all the details, but it seems like they had such respect for the manager that they were going to fire him, that the whole team quit.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So as we wrap this up, the first session of the year, we opened up, what are you asking God for? What are you trusting God for? What do you want out of 2022? And we had quite a few of the brothers share. Otis shared, East Move shared, Nick shared, Deacon Eminem shared, Bob, you shared, Rocky shared, Andre Abrams shared, Rudy, you shared, Jeff, you shared, Book, you shared. A lot of brothers shared. I shared my thing as far as a few good men and where I would like to see a few good men go. So a lot of us shared on that session. So in that, again, we share that with one another so we can hold each other accountable. That we can check in along 2022 with one another and say, hey, where you at with that? Whatever it is, where you at with that? How you coming along with that? Anything I can do to help you along with that? So let's continually check in with one another. And even if it doesn't happen in 2022, that we stay persistent. You know, 12 months is for us. God is way outside of 12 months. He's outside of time. 12 months mean nothing to him. And just because it doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen for you in 2022, that don't mean that automatically in 2023, automatically now you move on to something else and I got something new. Stick with it. Stay with it. Stay the course. Don't get discouraged. Prepare yourselves as I prepare myself. Go through the process. Go through the preparation to help you and help myself and all of us to achieve the things that we're asking for, we're trusting God for, that we're desiring for in 2022. So let's not let it go. You know, 3 weeks into the new year, don't let it go. When June comes, don't let it go. When September hits, don't let it go. And even if it's December 31st, don't let it go. Stay the course, my brothers, stay the course.
Amen.
All right.